You've been calling it love, but what if I told you it was never love at all? What if your brain has been confusing emotional neglect with connection? The ache, the waiting, the constant wondering if they care. You thought that meant something, but here's the question. Why does someone's absence make you want them more? If you're watching this right now, there's a good chance you know exactly what I'm talking about. That pull, that magnetic feeling toward people who are just out of reach. People who give you just enough attention to keep you hoping, but never enough to make you feel secure. People who disappear for days, then reappear with just the right words to pull you back in. And the strangest part, you can't let go. Even when you know, logically, that this person isn't good for you. Even when your friends tell you to walk away. Even when you've promised yourself 100 times that this is the last time. Your body won't listen. Your mind keeps circling back. And you wonder what's wrong with you. Why you can't just move on like everyone else seems to. But here's what nobody tells you. This isn't about willpower. This isn't about you being weak or desperate or broken. This is about how your brain was wired. Because your brain doesn't choose what feels good. It chooses what feels familiar. And if emotional neglect was familiar to you early in life, if love came with conditions, if affection was inconsistent or unpredictable, then your nervous system learned something very specific. It learned that love is something you have to chase. That connection is something you have to earn. That closeness comes with distance. And now, as an adult, your brain doesn't recognize calm, consistent affection as love. It recognizes anxiety as love. It recognizes uncertainty as passion. It recognizes emotional absence as intensity. Let me explain how this works. When you were young, your brain was learning what relationships feel like. Not through logic or language, but through experience. If a caregiver was emotionally available one day and distant the next, if love felt conditional, if you had to perform or behave a certain way to receive affection, your nervous system adapted. It learned to stay alert, to scan for signs of approval, to feel anxious when things were to calm, because calm meant something bad might be coming. And it learned that the moments when affection finally arrived, after all that waiting and worrying, felt like relief. Like a drug, that relief created a powerful chemical response in your brain. Dopamine flooded your system. Your body remembered that feeling, and it started to crave it. This is what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. When a reward is unpredictable, when you don't know if you're going to get it or when, your brain becomes obsessed with trying. It fixates. It can't let go. Because the possibility of getting that reward, that validation, that moment of connection, feels more powerful than actually having it consistently. So when someone is emotionally inconsistent with you, when they pull away and then come back, when they're hot and cold, distant and then suddenly affectionate, your brain doesn't register that as confusing or unhealthy. It registers it as exciting, as meaningful, as love. And this is where it gets even more complicated. Because the people you're drawn to, the ones who make you feel this way, they're not random. Your nervous system is scanning for them. It's looking for the emotional dynamics that feel familiar, even if those dynamics hurt you. This is why you might meet someone who is kind, consistent, and emotionally available, and feel nothing. They're too easy, too stable, too boring. Your brain doesn't recognize that calm energy as love because it wasn't programmed to. Instead, you feel drawn to people who are emotionally unavailable. People who are inconsistent. People who make you work for their attention. Because that's what your nervous system knows. That's what feels like home. This is what's happening when you find yourself obsessing over someone who barely texts you back. When you're checking your phone every 5 minutes. When you're replaying conversations in your head, analyzing every word, trying to figure out what you did wrong or what you could do differently to make them stay. Your logical brain knows this person isn't treating you well. But your emotional brain, the part that was shaped in childhood, is telling you that this is what love feels like. That the anxiety means it matters. That the uncertainty means it's real. And so you stay. You keep trying. You keep hoping that if you just say the right thing, do the right thing, be the right version of yourself, they'll finally see you. They'll finally stay. They'll finally love you the way you've been waiting to be loved. But here's the painful truth. You're not chasing them. You're chasing the feeling of finally being enough. You're chasing the moment when the uncertainty ends and the love becomes real. Except that moment never comes, because the dynamic itself is the attraction. The lack of safety is what keeps you hooked, and this is what trauma bonding is. It's when your nervous system becomes attached not to a person, but to a pattern of longing and relief, of rejection and validation, of emotional hunger and occasional satisfaction. Your body starts to associate that cycle with love. And anything outside of that cycle, anything that's too stable or too calm, feels wrong. It feels empty, it feels like nothing. And this is why people stay in relationships that hurt them. Not because they're foolish, not because they don't know better, but because their nervous system is running the show. And their nervous system doesn't care about logic. It cares about survival. It cares about staying connected to what feels familiar, even if that familiarity is painful. Because the unknown, the unfamiliar, feels more dangerous than the known pain. And so you stay. You convince yourself that maybe this time will be different. Maybe if you're more patient, more understanding, more loving, they'll change. But they won't, because the problem was never about them changing. The problem is that your brain learned to call neglect love, and until you unlearn that, until you retrain your nervous system to recognize what real safety feels like, you'll keep ending up in the same place, with the same type of person, feeling the same type of pain. So what does real love actually feel like? This is the part that's hard to accept. Real love feels calm. It feels steady. It feels like you can breathe. There's no guessing, no waiting. No wondering if their lines text you back or if they're rethinking about you or if they actually care. You know they care because they show up, consistently, without you having to ask, without you having to perform. Real love doesn't make you anxious. It doesn't make you feel small or unseen or like you're too much. It makes you feel held, safe, seen for who you actually are, not for who you're trying to be to keep them interested. But if your nervous system was shaped by chaos, that kind of love feels uncomfortable. It feels too easy, too boring, like something's missing. Because what's missing is the anxiety, what's missing is the chase, and your brain misinterprets that absence of pain as an absence of passion. This is why healing is so uncomfortable, because it's not about finding the right person. It's about becoming the version of yourself who can recognize the right person when they show up. It's about learning to sit with the discomfort of being treated well, of not having to guess, of not having to prove your worth, of being chosen clearly and consistently without conditions. And that takes time. It takes awareness. It takes looking at the patterns you've been repeating and asking yourself, honestly, why you keep choosing people who make you feel the way you felt as a child. Not because you're broken, but because you're still trying to fix something that wasn't your fault to begin with. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not unlovable. You're just conditioned. Conditioned to believe that love is something you earn, not something you receive. Conditioned to believe that distance means depth and anxiety means attraction. But now you know. And knowing is the first step, not toward fixing yourself, but toward understanding yourself, toward seeing the patterns, toward recognizing that the ache you've been calling love might just be the echo of something you learned a long time ago. Something you're finally ready to unlearn.